Saint Nocturne University. Book 4. Chapter 1. 3 semesters after Saint Nocturne stopped pretending it was normal, the campus learned how to lie in smaller ways. Not evil lies. Not founder-packed lies. Not children in the walls lies. Small college lies. I'm almost done with the reading. I'm not checking their story. This meeting will be quick. No, Seven and Delphine are not dating. That last lie had become campus tradition. Seven Monroe and Delphine Hart denied it so often that first years had started including it in orientation bingo. Blood court student says legacy is complicated. Howl house howls at inappropriate time. Root circle argument becomes flirtation. Brielle Laurent says with consent before reading someone's outfit. Someone sees Zora Baptiste and becomes afraid of a form. Seven and Delphine deny obvious relationship. The bingo cards were banned by the Administrative Harm Reduction Interface, which everyone still called ARI. ARI's official statement had been: unauthorized bingo involving living students is prohibited. Kiki Bell had immediately made shirts that said, authorized bingo only. They sold out in 6 hours. Saint Nocturne was still Saint Nocturne. The difference was now everyone knew where the teeth were. The chapel remained closed except for scheduled heart chamber oversight. The bell had been removed, archived, labeled, and cursed by Talia Price for good measure. The lantern heart stayed stable under collective supervision, though it occasionally dropped 1% whenever too many alumni emailed suggestions. No one trusted alumni. Solomon Baptiste had grown 2 inches, developed strong opinions about pancakes, and decided most adults were allowed in their eyes. He lived mostly with Nadine and Maxine off campus, but he visited Saint Nocturne for tutoring, restoration care, and Ms. Renee's cooking. He still carried the broken toy horse. Nobody commented unless invited. Zora and Aya had opened 7 childhood records. There were more. They had stopped measuring healing by how many they could survive in one sitting. Nadine came to campus twice a month now. Sometimes she sat with Aya in Maxine's shop. Sometimes she argued with Zora about whether eating coffee for breakfast counted as adulthood. Sometimes she cried in her car afterward and came back anyway. That was family now. Coming back. Brielle Laurent's media project, Say It With Your Chest or Don't Say It At All, had become annoyingly respected. She hated how much policy went into being ethical. Nia Bellamy hated how often people called it brave. Juno Price loved editing consent clauses too much and had started making law students nervous. Brielle and Nia were not together. Officially. They had tried once. It lasted 9 days, 2 beautiful dates, 1 panic spiral, 1 very controlled argument, and a mutual decision that closeness did not need to be rushed just because everyone else wanted a storyline. They were still always near each other. People noticed. People had learned not to post about it. Mostly. Imani Cross had refused the title of Howell House lead representative for so long that the House eventually voted to rename the position Imani's problem. She filed a complaint. The complaint failed. Kiki Bell became communications chair, which meant every official Howell House announcement sounded like it had kicked open a door. Taj Cross was still doing restitution. He had gotten quieter. Not fixed. Quieter. Rome Ellis had grown into his first moon with half the campus cheering and his mother crying so hard Marva Cross pretended to need a tissue for herself. Malik St. Crown and Seraphina DuPont had become legal partners in the most emotionally irritating way possible. They were not dating. They had dated for 6 weeks. Then Seraphina ended it because Malik kept trying to become a better man at her too loudly. He accepted this badly, then maturely, then badly again, then settled into professional devotion with occasional tragic eye contact. Seraphina called that manageable. Celia St. Crown called it good training. Dre Coleman got promoted. He hated it. He was now Student Staff Operations Coordinator, a title he insisted was temporary despite having business cards, an office, and a drawer full of emergency snacks that everyone knew about and pretended not to. Laila Freeman published 3 major investigations, won 2 student journalism awards, got threatened by 4 donors, and learned to ask before chasing certain stories. She and Dre had become something with no label. Not because the feeling was unclear. Because Dre had once said, "If you call me your source again during an argument, I'm leaving," and Laila had replied, "Then I won't call you that." That was practically a vow at Saint Nocturne. Professor Sanaa Graves had not returned to teaching full-time. She worked with the Holloway Foundation, the Archive Consent Office, and the Faculty Accountability Board. Some students still hated her. Some trusted her. Some did both depending on the day. Miles Holloway's thesis was now a required reading in 3 departments. 7 had helped build the scholarship in Miles' name. He still had not forgiven himself. No one serious had asked him to. The new semester began under gray October skies, wet leaves, and the annual Founders Week events that had been renamed Accountability Week after students refused to celebrate founders who had done basement crimes. Ari made the announcement at breakfast. "Good morning, Saint Nocturne community. Accountability Week begins today. Please review the schedule for panels, archive exhibits, consent workshops, housing reparations updates, Holloway scholarship presentations, and the memorial lecture." A pause. Reminder, glitter is not permitted near the restored archive. Another pause. Keisha Bell, this includes biodegradable glitter. In the dining hall, Kiki lowered a tiny pouch into her lap. Imani stared at her. Kiki whispered, "Oppression." Rome whispered, "Ari sees all." Across the room, Zora sat with Aya, Nasir, Talia, and Solomon, who had been allowed to attend morning tutoring on campus because Maxine had a vendor meeting and Nadine had court filings for Solomon's long-term status. Sol wore headphones around his neck and a sweatshirt that read, "I am not a symbol." Talia had bought it for him. Zora had pretended to hate it. Sol loved it. Aya looked over the Accountability Week schedule, expression unreadable. "There is a panel called From Harm to Governance," she said. Zora sipped coffee. "Sounds cursed." Nasir looked at the schedule. "I'm on it." Zora slowly lowered her cup. "You agreed to a panel called From Harm to Governance." Nasir's mouth tightened. Laila asked. Talia nodded. "That's how they get you." Sol looked up from his pancakes. "Are panels like trials?" Zora said, "Worse. People ask questions with tote bags." Aya almost smiled. "That still happens sometimes." Almost smiles. Almost ease. Family as a muscle being rebuilt and occasionally cramping. At the blood contract review table, Malik and Seraphina were arguing over a fellowship applicant. "You rejected him because his essay used benevolent legacy 3 times, Malik said. Seraphina did not look up. "Correct. That seems harsh." It was the same paragraph. "Fair." Celia walked by, placed a folder between them, and said, "Both of you missed the hidden asset clause." Seraphina froze. Malik stared at the folder. Celia continued walking. Seraphina opened it. Malik leaned over. Do you ever feel like she waits to humble us recreationally? Yes. Comforting? No. At the Veilborn table, Brielle was reading a draft aloud to Nia and Juno. Coverage of Accountability Week will center systems, consent, and student-led repair without turning individual harm into spectacle. Juno nodded. Good. Nia tilted her head. The word center is doing a lot. Brielle lowered the paper. Everybody hates my verbs. Because your verbs pose. They're stylish. They're attention-seeking. That feels personal. Nia's mouth twitched. Brielle noticed. Her entire face tried not to glow and failed. Andre Voss walked by with a coffee and sunglasses. Still not together. Nia looked at him. Andre immediately kept walking. Respecting boundaries, he called over his shoulder. Juno said, "He's learning fear." Brielle sighed dreamily. Growth. At the root circle end of the dining hall, 7 Monroe was trying to eat a bagel while Delphine Hart corrected his memorial lecture notes. You cannot say the institution was shady. 7 frowned. It was. This is the Holloway Memorial Lecture. Miles would have agreed. Miles wrote in precise language. He also haunted people. Not in footnotes. Micah Reed sat beside them, watching like it was a sport. 7 leaned closer to Delphine. Are you nervous? She looked offended. No. You rewrote my opening sentence 4 times. Because it was bad. You adjusted my collar twice. It was crooked. You are holding my hand under the table. Delphine froze. Micah slowly leaned over the table. I knew it. Delphine released 7's hand instantly. 7 smiled, soft and unbearable. Delphine pointed at him. Do not. I didn't say anything. You emoted. Micah pulled out his phone. Delphine snapped, if you post, I will curse your camera to only capture your bad side. Micah put the phone away. I respect love. We are not. 7 said gently, Delphine. She stopped. The word sat between them. Not teasing. Not public. Not denial. Her face changed. Then she picked up his lecture notes and said, quieter, your second paragraph is acceptable. 7 smiled. I'll take it. At 8:17 a.m., the first scream came from Graves Hall. Not a playful scream. Not a ghost in the stairwell scream. Not a someone saw their ex at breakfast scream. This one cut through the dining hall and turned every head at once. Ari's voice came over the speakers immediately. Emergency alert. Graves Hall archive wing sealed. Students remain calm. Nobody remained calm. A second scream followed. Then the bells that had replaced emergency sirens began to sound across campus. Not chapel bells. Smaller. Practical. Less dramatic. Still terrifying. Zora stood first. Talia grabbed Sol's shoulder gently. Stay with me. Sol's face had gone pale. Zora looked at Aya. Aya nodded. Nasir was already moving. Across the dining hall, Laila grabbed her bag but not her recorder. Dre took the emergency clipboard from the wall. Brielle looked at Nia. Nia nodded once. Juno stood. Imani was already at the door with Kiki, Rome, and Taj behind her. Malik and Seraphina abandoned the contract folders. 7 and Delphine ran so fast Micah had to grab their notes off the table. Graves Hall was surrounded by students when they arrived. Root Circle students clustered at the entrance, some crying, some casting uselessly against the archive wing seals. Faculty stood in shock. A first year sat on the steps sobbing into their sleeves. The doors to the restored archive glowed white. Not red. White. Clean. That made Zora's stomach twist. Laila pushed toward the front. What happened? No one answered. A graduate assistant turned around. Omar. His face was gray. Don't go in. 7 pushed past. Where is Professor Graves? Omar looked at him. That look said everything before words could. Delphine grabbed 7's arm. He shook his head once, hard. No. Omar's voice broke. 7. The archive wing doors opened. Not because anyone unlocked them. Because the seal recognized the oversight team. Inside, the restored archive room smelled like paper, rain, and burned rosemary. Shelves rose in curved walls. Miles Holloway's thesis display stood at the center under protective glass. Around it were records from the Reform era, consent protocols, faculty confessions, restitution plans, Holloway scholarship documents, restored student works. Professor Sanaa Graves lay on the floor beside the display table. Still. No blood. No visible wound. No dramatic violence. Her cane lay a few feet away, snapped in two. Miles Holloway's thesis was open beside her. A white page rested on her chest. 7 made a sound like his body had forgotten language. Delphine caught him before his knees gave. Laila covered her mouth. Dre stepped back once, then forced himself still. Nia closed her eyes. Brielle whispered, "No." Zora looked at the page. 3 words had been written in black ink. Confession is not restitution. The room went silent. Then Ari spoke from the archive wall, voice softer than usual. Fatal harm confirmed. Archive wing locked for investigation. Witness protocol initiated. 7 stared at Graves. His breathing went wrong. Delphine held him tighter. "No," he whispered. "No, she was supposed to testify again tonight. She was supposed to present the Holloway corrections. She was." His voice broke. Delphine's face had gone white, but her voice stayed firm. 7. Look at me. He did not. She turned him gently but forcefully. Look at me. He did. Barely. She said, "You are not going to run into the evidence field. You need to breathe." His eyes filled. She used his work. She was going to say it again. "I know." She was trying. "I know." He swallowed hard. That didn't save her. Delphine's face cracked for 1 second. "No." Laila crouched near the page but did not touch it. Dre stood beside her, clipboard lowered. "This is staged." Laila nodded. Her voice was quiet. "For us." Zora looked around the archive. The shelves were too neat. The body too carefully placed. The note too clean. This was not chaos. This was a message dressed like justice. Seraphina entered behind Malik, eyes scanning the room. The phrase is ideological. Malik looked sick. Someone killed her over repair. Aya stood near the doorway, arms folded tightly. Or over the appearance of repair. Nia opened her eyes. That landed. Because everyone in the room understood the sentence. Some people had never forgiven Professor Graves. Some had believed she was doing real work. Some had believed both. Now a killer had decided the question for her. Brielle looked at Laila. You can't write this yet. Laila's face tightened. I know. Dre looked at her. She did know. That mattered. Ari spoke again. Archive anomaly detected. One record missing from Holloway Memorial Collection. 7 looked up sharply. Delphine turned toward the display. What record? The protective glass over Miles Holloway's thesis flickered. Ari projected the catalog entry above it. Missing item. Holloway, Miles' original prophecy draft / unannotated copy. Status, removed during incident. 7 went still. Delphine whispered, no. The prophecy. The one 7 had forged his way through. The original thread tying him to Miles, Graves, and everything that followed. Zora looked at 7. Who knew that was here? Omar answered from the doorway. Faculty Accountability Board. Holloway Foundation. Archive Consent. Scholarship Committee. Restoration Fellows. Laila's eyes sharpened. Restoration Fellows. Omar nodded shakily. We got a new one this semester. Transfer from Meridian Arcane. Archive Ethics Concentration. Dre looked at him. Name. Before Omar could answer, the archive lights flickered. Not red. White again. Every record label in the room blurred for 1 second. Then sharpened. All except one. Professor Graves' name on the faculty accountability display faded. Letters dissolving from the plaque. Sanaa Graves. Became. S underscore 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 G underscore 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 underscore. 7 lunged forward. Delphine grabbed him. Ari said, redaction magic detected. The room chilled. Zora stared at the fading name. The killer was not just killing. They were erasing the official story. Laila whispered, if the record forgets her. Dre finished, voice hard. Then only witnesses hold her. Nia stepped closer to the display. Say her name. Everyone looked at her. She repeated, louder, say her name before the room loses it. 7's voice came first, broken. Sanaa Graves. Delphine, Sanaa Graves. Zora, Sanaa Graves. Aya, Sanaa Graves. Laila, Sanaa Graves. Dre, Sanaa Graves. Brielle. Nia. Juno. Malik. Seraphina. Imani. Kiki. Rome. Taj. Omar. Micah. Students in the hall. Faculty. Staff. The name filled the archive. The plaque flickered. Then restored. Sanaa Graves. Ari said, witness restoration successful. No one felt victorious. 7 stared at the name like he had just watched it almost die twice. Then a whisper came from the far shelf. Not a voice. Paper. A single page slid from between 2 books and drifted to the floor. Laila did not touch it. Dre used an evidence charm to lift it. The page was blank except for one line. The thief was allowed to graduate. 7 stopped breathing. Delphine went rigid. Zora looked at the sentence, then at 7. No, she said immediately. 7 swallowed. His face had gone empty. Not calm. Worse. Recognition. Brielle whispered, they're not done. Ari's emergency tone sounded. Secondary threat likely. 7 Monroe placed under protective protocol. 7 laughed once. It sounded wrong. Protective protocol. Delphine gripped his sleeve. You are coming with me. He looked at the page. They took the prophecy. Yes. And left that. Yes. I know where they're going. Delphine's eyes narrowed. Absolutely not. 7 pulled free. Delphine. No. Do not say my name like you are about to do something emotionally stupid and historically predictable. He looked at her. The archive room held its breath. 7's voice dropped. Miles had an old study room under the west stacks. Graves showed me last term. She said he wrote the earliest prophecy drafts there. Laila stepped forward. We go together. 7 shook his head. If the killer wanted an audience, they'd have stayed. Dre said, or they wanted you isolated. That should have stopped him. It did not. 7 turned and ran. Delphine cursed in 3 languages and ran after him. Zora shouted, 7. Imani moved, but the archive doors slammed between them and the hall. Ari said, lockdown expanded. Brielle yelled, Ari, override. Override denied. Redaction field interfering. Laila slammed her hand against the door. Delphine is out there with him. Ari paused. Then said, tracking. The wall display changed. A map of Graves Hall appeared. 2 moving lights. 7. Delphine. Heading down. West Stacks. Sublevel archive. A 3rd light appeared behind them. Unidentified. Fast. Kiki whispered, no. The map flickered. Then went white. Visual lost, Ari said. Zora turned toward the sealed door, rage rising. Open it. Unable. Aya stepped beside her. Then we break it? Seraphina shouted, not blindly. The redaction field could erase whoever forces through. Zora looked at her. Seraphina held her gaze. I am trying to keep you alive, not be annoying. Multitasking, Malik muttered. She ignored him. Nia looked at Brielle. Can sound cross the field? Brielle's face changed. I don't know. Juno said, try. Brielle stepped to the door. Her voice had changed over 3 semesters. Less performance. More control. She did not sing unless she meant to, and she never used magic around people without warning anymore. Now she placed both hands on the archive door. 7 Monroe, she said, voice threaded with siren resonance but not command, if you can hear me, do not go alone. The door vibrated. For a second, nothing. Then Delphine's voice crackled through the wall. Too late. Kiki shouted, I hate this school. In the West Stacks, 7 ran like Guild had legs. The sublevel archive had not been fully reopened after the reforms. It still smelled like dust, stone, and old wards. Shelves leaned in narrow rows. Light charms flickered above him as he passed. Behind him, Delphine was furious and breathless. Monroe. He did not stop. 7. He stopped then. Not because she yelled. Because she used his first name. Delphine nearly crashed into him. They stood in a narrow corridor between shelves of restricted prophecy fragments and rejected thesis drafts. Her face was pale with anger and fear. If you ever run toward a murderer again, I will resurrect you only to kill you myself. His voice shook. They took Miles' prophecy. I know. They killed Graves. I know. They left that note for me. I know. His face cracked. Then what am I supposed to do? Delphine grabbed the front of his jacket. Not become the next line in their argument. The words hit. He looked away. Too late. A white light flashed at the end of the row. The shelves shifted. The corridor sealed behind them. Delphine turned slowly. A figure stood in the aisle ahead. Hood up. Hands gloved. Face hidden behind a plain white archive mask. In one hand, they held a page. Miles Holloway's original prophecy draft. Seven's voice went cold. Who are you? The masked figure tilted their head. When they spoke, their voice was distorted by magic. You were allowed to become better. Delphine stepped slightly in front of Seven. The figure noticed. Touching. Seven's hands shook, but his voice held. You killed Professor Graves. She confessed. People applauded her honesty. They let her stay near the work. No one applauded. They listened. That was more than Miles got. Delphine's eyes sharpened. Miles. The figure turned toward her. Delphine continued, carefully. You knew him. The air shifted. Seven saw it too. Not random. Not council. Personal. The masked figure lifted the prophecy page. This was his. Then yours. Then the school's. Everyone got a turn holding what he died for. Seven swallowed. He should be alive. The figure went still. Seven stepped forward despite Delphine's grip. He should be here. He should have published it. He should have been the one standing at the memorial lecture. Not me. Not Graves. Not anyone else. The figure's hand tightened around the page. Then why are you still here? Seven had no answer that did not sound like begging. Delphine did. Because killing him does not resurrect Miles. The figure turned on her. No. But it keeps the school from turning forgiveness into a career path. A white charm flashed from their hand. Delphine shoved Seven aside. The spell struck him anyway, glancing across his chest. His body seized. Not violent. Not bloody. Just sudden stillness, like someone had cut the line between him and his own magic. He collapsed. Delphine screamed his name. The figure vanished into white paper smoke. The shelves unlocked. Delphine dropped beside Seven. His eyes were open. Unfocused. His lips moved without sound. On his wrist, words appeared in black ink, writing themselves beneath the skin. The thief was allowed to graduate. Delphine grabbed his face. Seven. Seven, look at me. He gasped. Air returned. But his eyes were terrified. I can't feel my magic. Delphine's face went sharp with panic she could not hide. Stay with me. His breath shook. Delphine. I am here. The words came out too soft to be denial. He looked at her. For once, neither of them had anywhere to hide. Above them, Uri's voice finally broke through the sub-level speakers. 7 Monroe attacked. Medical response en route. Redaction mark detected. Delphine pressed one hand over the words on his wrist, as if she could hold him in the world by touch alone. You are not disappearing, she said. His eyes filled. I stole from a dead boy. And you are still not allowed to become a murderer's thesis. Footsteps thundered down the stairs. Zora arrived first, then Imani, Dre, Laila, Brielle, Nia, Juno, Malik, Seraphina, Aya, Nasir, Kiki, and half of Root Circle behind them. Zora dropped beside 7. Can you move? He nodded weakly. Laila looked at the mark on his wrist. Her face hardened. Dre saw the empty aisle. They wanted him alive. Nia's voice was quiet. They wanted him marked. Brielle looked toward the place the attacker vanished. This is not hiding. Aya nodded. It's staging. Delphine did not let go of 7. Then we stop watching the stage and find who built it? Ari's voice came through again. Investigation update. New archive fellow unaccounted for. Everyone went still. Laila looked up. Name. Ari paused. Then. Evan Holloway. 7 closed his eyes. Delphine whispered, Holloway. The West stacks went silent. The killer had a name. Maybe. Or Saint Nocturne had just found the first shape of the next lie. Back in the restored archive room, Professor Graves' body remained beside Miles Holloway's thesis, the note still resting near her, her name held in place by witness. Outside, students gathered under the gray October sky as the news spread without an app, without a gossip page, without aftershade. Murder. Attack. Redaction. Holloway. And somewhere beyond the locked archive wing, a masked killer carried Miles' original prophecy through Saint Nocturne like a verdict waiting to be read.